You're in your early 40s and something has shifted. Not overnight, but gradually, unmistakably. You find yourself anxious in ways you never were before. Your heart races during routine work meetings. You wake at 3 in the morning for no reason. Your mind immediately spiraling through worst-case scenarios. You snap at your partner over small things. You feel on edge constantly, like you're waiting for something bad to happen, even when nothing in your life has fundamentally changed. You schedule a doctor's appointment, convinced something must be wrong. Blood tests come back normal. Your thyroid is fine. Your cortisol levels are within range. The doctor nods sympathetically and suggests stress management, maybe some therapy. But something inside you knows this isn't just stress. This is different. And if this resonates with you, please subscribe to this channel because we dive deep into the biological transitions that nobody talks about, but everyone experiences. What you're experiencing is real. It has a name. And it has a biological cause that your doctor might not have mentioned yet. Welcome back and thank you for being here. What's happening inside your body right now is something called perimenopause. And specifically, what we're talking about today is the silent progesterone drop that occurs in your early 40s. Progesterone isn't just a reproductive hormone. It's one of your brain's most important neurotransmitters. It's calming, it's stabilizing. It's been flowing through your system since you were a teenager, quietly doing its job of keeping your nervous system regulated. Your body has built its entire baseline of anxiety tolerance around this hormone being present at certain levels. For decades, you've had enough progesterone that your brain and nervous system felt safe and regulated. Then, in your late 30s and early 40s, something changes. Your ovarian reserve begins to decline. This isn't menopause yet. Your period is still coming. You might still be ovulating regularly. But the consistency starts to slip. Some months you have a normal ovulation. Other months, you skip ovulation entirely. When you skip ovulation, you skip the second half of your cycle, which is when progesterone naturally peaks. This is the part nobody warns you about. You don't lose progesterone all at once. You lose it inconsistently. 1 week you feel fine. The next week, the anxiety is overwhelming. You can't sleep. You're irritable. You feel disconnected from your body. Then your period comes, and suddenly you feel almost normal again. But within a few days or weeks, the cycle repeats. This is the silent progesterone drop, and it's happening to millions of women in their early 40s who have no idea what's going on. The confusion is understandable because your period hasn't stopped yet, at least not by the traditional definition. So you assume you're still in your reproductive years, still hormonally stable, still the same as you were at 30. But your ovaries are changing. They're producing eggs less reliably. This is called perimenopause, and it typically lasts anywhere from 4 to 10 years before your period actually stops. During this entire time, your progesterone levels are gradually declining, but they're also becoming erratic. You might have a month where your progesterone is normal, followed by a month where it's significantly lower. Your brain doesn't adapt well to this inconsistency. Your nervous system has been calibrated to a certain level of progesterone for your entire adult life. When that level suddenly drops, even for just a few days or a week, your brain perceives it as a threat. Anxiety floods in. Sleep becomes difficult. Your ability to regulate emotions feels diminished. Now, let's talk about why progesterone matters so much for anxiety. Progesterone is what's called a GABA agonist. GABA is gamma-aminobutyric acid, and it's your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA is what calms your nervous system down. It's what tells your brain that it's safe to relax, that there's no danger, that you can sleep. When progesterone levels are healthy, progesterone amplifies GABA's calming effects. Your brain feels regulated. You can handle stress more easily. You sleep better. You feel more resilient emotionally. But when progesterone drops, you lose that amplification. GABA still exists in your brain, but it's working without its natural enhancer. The result is that your nervous system becomes hyperactive. That's not a personal failing. That's not weakness. That's biology. Your brain is literally receiving less of the signal that tells it to calm down. The anxiety you're experiencing in your early 40s is often the direct result of this progesterone decline. And if you're finding this information useful, please hit that like button, because understanding your own biology is genuinely powerful. So why don't more doctors catch this? The answer is complicated, but it mostly comes down to outdated diagnostic frameworks. The medical establishment has traditionally defined perimenopause as the years leading up to menopause, which is defined by 12 consecutive months without a period. But this definition misses the reality of what's happening hormonally for years before that milestone. Your progesterone is already declining and becoming erratic. Your anxiety symptoms are already appearing. But because your period is still coming roughly monthly, you're told that your hormones are fine. Additionally, progesterone is rarely tested in standard medical practice. When doctors order hormone panels, they typically check estrogen and FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone. But progesterone is harder to interpret because it fluctuates so much throughout your cycle. A single blood test for progesterone might show a normal level, even if you're experiencing the erratic drops that are actually causing your symptoms. This is why so many women in their early 40s are left confused and gaslit about their own experience. You know something is different. You feel it constantly. But the tests come back normal, and you're sent home with a prescription for an antidepressant or told to try meditation. But they're treating the symptom, not the cause. Now let's talk about what's actually happening in your body during this transition. Your ovaries contain a finite number of eggs. You're born with all the eggs you'll ever have. Over your lifetime, you ovulate roughly 400 of them, one per month for about 40 years. By your late 30s and early 40s, your ovarian reserve is depleted. You might have 10,000 eggs left, or 5,000, or fewer. As your egg supply gets lower, your ovaries become less responsive to the hormonal signals that tell them to ovulate. Some months, your FSH level spikes trying to trigger an ovulation that doesn't happen. Other months, ovulation occurs normally. This inconsistency is the hallmark of perimenopause, and because ovulation is what triggers progesterone production, irregular ovulation means irregular progesterone. If you ovulate, progesterone rises. If you don't ovulate, progesterone stays low. Your brain experiences these fluctuations as chaos. For decades, your hormones have been relatively predictable. Now, they're not. Your nervous system, which has been calibrated to a stable hormonal environment, suddenly has to contend with significant week-to-week variation. This is why the anxiety often feels so strange and disorienting. It doesn't feel like regular anxiety that you might normally experience around a specific stressor. It feels diffuse. It feels unpredictable. It feels like it's coming out of nowhere because, in a sense, it is. It's a biological signal from your brain saying, "We're not getting the progesterone we're used to, and something feels wrong." The anxiety you're experiencing is not a sign of weakness or mental illness or poor stress management. It's a sign that your brain is accurately perceiving a change in its chemical environment. Understanding this distinction is crucial because it changes how you respond to what's happening. This isn't about thinking your way out of it. This is about working with your biology. So what can you actually do about this? There are several evidence-based approaches, and they often work best in combination. First, tracking is invaluable. When you know your cycle, you start to see the pattern. You might notice that your anxiety peaks in the week before your period, then improves once you bleed. Or you might notice that you have 2 weeks of relatively stable anxiety, followed by a week of significant anxiety, then 1 week of decent days. Once you see the pattern, you can contextualize your anxiety. On a day when you know progesterone is likely low, you know that the anxious thoughts making everything feel catastrophic are partly a neurochemical thing, not a reflection of reality. That perspective alone can be powerful. Second, lifestyle modifications during high anxiety times can help. When you're in a low progesterone window, your nervous system needs more support. This might mean increasing your exercise, but being careful not to overtrain, which raises cortisol. It might mean prioritizing sleep even more than usual. It might mean reducing caffeine during these windows, because caffeine interacts with a low progesterone nervous system differently than it does during stable progesterone times. It might mean saying no to social obligations that will overstimulate you. It might mean spending more time in nature or doing gentle movement like walking or yoga. Third, supplements and dietary support can help. Magnesium glycinate is calming to the nervous system. and many people find it helps during high anxiety windows. Vitamin B6 is involved in progesterone synthesis and can be supportive. Some women find that increasing their intake of foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids helps stabilize mood. Dietary choices matter partly through their effect on blood sugar. When your blood sugar is stable, your cortisol is more stable, and your anxiety is more manageable. This means reducing refined carbohydrates and sugar, especially during low progesterone windows. Fourth, and this is important, talk to your doctor about bioidentical progesterone. This is where it gets interesting, because progesterone is a legitimate treatment option for perimenopause anxiety. But many doctors don't think of it as such. Progesterone can be prescribed in various forms. Micronized progesterone, taken orally, usually in the second half of your cycle. Topical progesterone cream, or progesterone in a compound pharmacy formula, tailored to your needs. Taking progesterone supplementally during the second half of your cycle, when your body normally produces it, but is increasingly failing to, can dramatically reduce anxiety for many women. This isn't about taking hormones indefinitely. This is about temporary support during the transition. Some women only need it for a year or two. Others use it throughout their 40s. Some women find that using it strategically, just during the windows when they know anxiety is highest, is enough. The key is working with a doctor who understands perimenopause and sees progesterone as a legitimate therapeutic tool, not just a controversial hormone to be avoided. If your current doctor isn't open to discussing this, it might be worth seeking out a functional medicine doctor or a gynecologist who specializes in midlife transitions. Fifth, cognitive tools can help. Understanding what's happening in your body makes a huge difference. When you know that the catastrophizing thoughts you're having at 2 a.m. are partly a symptom of low progesterone, not necessarily a reflection of reality, you gain some distance from them. You can observe the thoughts without believing them so completely. You can practice grounding techniques that specifically target a dysregulated nervous system. You can remind yourself that this is temporary and cyclical. It will shift again. Sixth, community and validation matter more than you might think. So much of the suffering around this experience comes from not knowing what's happening and feeling gaslit by the medical system. When you find other women in their early 40s experiencing the same thing, when you read about perimenopause and realize that your experience is normal and common and has a name, something shifts. You stop wondering if you're losing your mind. You stop thinking you need to just manage your stress better. You start understanding your own biology and treating yourself accordingly. This is why I talk about this topic so openly, because so many women are suffering in silence, thinking they're alone, thinking there's something wrong with them specifically, when actually what's happening is a predictable biological transition that millions of women move through. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in what I'm describing, I want you to know that what you're experiencing is real. It makes biological sense, and there are things you can do about it. The anxiety you're feeling is not a personal failing. It's not something you caused by not meditating enough or not managing stress well enough. It's a signal from your body that your hormones are changing. And now that you know that, you can work with that knowledge. You can track your cycle. You can adjust your lifestyle during sensitive windows. You can talk to your doctor about progesterone. You can find community with other women going through this. You can stop accepting the narrative that you're just becoming an anxious person. Your brain and body are responding predictably to a real change. And with support, understanding, and the right tools, you can move through this time without suffering as much as you might otherwise. I really hope this video has helped you understand what might be happening in your body. Please like this video if it resonated with you, because it helps me create more content about these overlooked biological transitions that affect so many of us. And I genuinely love to hear from you. Have you experienced anxiety changes in your early 40s? And did you eventually discover it was related to hormonal shifts? Share your experience in the comments below, because these conversations help so many other women feel less alone. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more videos about understanding your body and the transitions you move through.